magic to work, you have to truly believe in the magic.
Hey, Magic fans, and welcome to the Let's Talk Magic podcast. I'm Paul, and welcome to this week's episode. This is, as you know, an Orlando Magic podcast, and today we are going to be talking about Paolo, Markel, Wendell, and J.I. Today's episode is brought to you in association with AttractionTickets.com, the UK's leading supplier for attraction tickets, providing everything you could want when visiting Orlando, including tickets to Disney, SeaWorld in the Universal Parks, plus theme park hotels. They also sell Orlando Magic tickets at a highly competitive price. So when planning your next holiday to Orlando from the UK, check out attractiontickets.com using the links on our website, social media, and in the podcast description below. Also, they are currently running Black Friday deals that includes a 10% offer off of all US hotels and tickets, so well worth checking out. You can also visit letstalkmagic.com for all our affiliate links, including the NBA store and Fanatics, where you will also find any discount codes that we may have running at the time. So, boys, we've got the housekeeping out of the way. Let's introduce you. Gary, how are you doing, my friend?
Hickety boo, mate. How are you?
Marvellous, mate, marvellous. Am I the only one not on the Magic memo this week? Because I've not had time to get changed. I've still got my Slipknot top on.
Give him gear here, mate.
G, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. You should know I don't wear anything else other than Orlando Magic, be it socks, pants, t-shirts, pajamas, dressing gown, anything.
Body stockings.
Body stockings, the lot, mate.
And a good week, mate? A good week?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you, mate. Obviously, I've only just finished watching the game about an hour ago, so we'll get to that in a little second.
Oh,
but
yes.
Yeah, and you just read out the sponsorship with attraction tickets, and obviously, you know, we heard about the deals they had, fantastic deals. I've only gone and got my tickets already, haven't I? So I'm a little bit annoyed at myself at the same time. But no, fantastic deals available there. So yeah, you check them out, as Paul said.
Absolutely. And Mr. Clark, Mikey, how's you?
I
Action
think
Man
I'm
hair
all
growing?
right. The Action Man, it's growing back. Becky's a little happier this week. I'm not sure if I'm a happy boy today. I was up at 4:45 to watch the Hawks game this morning, and we all know what happens there if you've already watched the game, but we'll get into that shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we continue, as always, we're going to give a shout out to our Patreons, as we do every week, who help support Let's Talk Magic and what we do. So it's a thank you, as always, to Ollie Law, Gary Clark, Angus Craig, Dylan Holden, Alan Kane, Tom Sohn, Mark Joss, Sean Moore, Drummy Drum Drum, Paolo and Franz Warmth, Liam Radbourne, Andy Lindley, and Stuart Bensley. We genuinely do appreciate you. And it's also a thank you to anyone who shows the support for the show that we do. If you are interested in joining Patreon, we have 3 tiers available, varying benefits. Visit patreon.com/Let's Talk Magic to join today, or click on the Patreon link on our website, letstalkmagic.com. So let's get into it, boys. A week has passed since we recorded, and it's closed with the Magic taking a 1-2 record. The 3 games we played saw Orlando take down the Lakers. Big smiles all around there. We then dropped to a loss against Dallas, and finally a heartbreaking 1-point loss to Atlanta in Mexico last night. That sees us with a record of 4-4, tied 6th in the East with Miami, New York, Brooklyn, and Toronto. So I would say that this week, injury news has somewhat dominated our Magic news again. Markel Fultz missed 2 games with knee soreness. Gary Harris, all 3 games with a continuing issue to his groin. Wendell Carter Jr., as we know, is out for an extended period with a fractured 3rd metacarpal to his left hand that's requiring surgery. He'll be evaluated at the end of the month, but could be out until the new year. And Jonathan Isaac also had to sit out for a period of time with a hamstring issue. Those injuries saw both Anthony Black and Goga Bitadze come into the starting unit. Anthony Black getting his first NBA start. Now, G, I'm going to come to you first because we're going to have a quick talk about Markel. You firmly held the view this week that if Markel had played against Dallas, we would have won that game. So go on, mate. Why is that?
Absolutely, we would have. Well, first of all, let's just have a quick recap. The Lakers game. Black played superbly. Coming in, I think he was a plus 30 something for the game. Shot the ball well, hounded the Lakers on defense. So kudos to him. Goga Bitadze as well. Setting the tone. First possession of the game, blocking Anthony Davis, and comfortable winners in the end. But
I
until
just knew that you couldn't go over without talking about that Lakers game.
Oh, you have to, don't you? Biggest W of the season.
I deliberately left it out. Let's talk about the Lakers game. Thinking, and I'll come to you first. I just knew you wouldn't be able to resist having a little talk about it.
Yeah, man.
Good man. Go on, carry on.
It's got to be done. Got to be done. So, in fairness, those two that came in, you just mentioned, did absolutely brilliantly, and the team was fantastic, running the Lakers off the floor. The first half with Dallas, no complaints at all, whatsoever. Shot the ball well, but then it started to come undone in the third quarter. Shooting was a problem. I think we nearly went 17 and a half minutes without making a three ball, which, is an obvious concern and something, been discussed on podcasts before, is the fact we haven't got shooters. So other than the problem is with that Dallas game for me, people get on Markelle Fultz. And after the Lakers game, they were saying that Black is the future. Let's trade Markelle. One game. And, he played great defense, but he didn't do what Markelle does. He doesn't drive the ball. He doesn't penetrate, get to the paint, make those tough, awkward shots, gets layups, finds teammates. I've got the stats in front of me, but I don't think he had many assists that game as a starting point guard. Now, I know Markelle doesn't get as many either, but he does get a lot of hockey assists. So going back to, why Markelle would have made us win, the reason for me is that the fourth quarter, the Magic shot the ball terribly. They turned the ball over a lot. They put themselves in positions with the shot clock winding down where we took bad shots. Whereas if you have a point guard on the floor who can make decisions, who's accustomed to having the ball late in the game, like Markelle does, then we're a lot more likely to get better shots and maybe walk out with a W. So the third quarter obviously put us back, but it was still, a couple of points in the game in the fourth quarter, still there to be had for me. Excuse me. So to say, you only got to look at Markelle Fultz's. Sorry, I'm like the president of the Markelle Fultz Club, and I'm just standing up for him all the time. But Markelle Fultz, as a member of the Orlando Magic, the team is 76 and 87. Without Markelle Fultz, we're 105 and 213. So that just points to winning. Impact in a lots of ways. That could be, defensive intensity. You get a lot more extra possessions with Markelle. He gets more offensive rebounds. As a point guard, it's quite high, his stats for offensive rebounds. He picks up steals. He pressures the ball. So things like the bad shots, shot clock violations, on, was it Monday now? Yeah, Monday against Dallas. I don't think we would have had them. So for me, that's one of the reasons I think we'd have benefited from having Markelle on the floor. And it's not to say, the players weren't capable. Everybody has an off game, but I think that the offense would have been orchestrated a lot better with a legitimate leader on the floor. And it's something we want to see Paolo and Franz do. But for me, I'm looking at the box score from the fourth quarter. They both played 9 minutes 26 and 9 minutes 50. Between them going 1 for 6 from the floor. You need closers as well. Cole Anthony stepped up, did his part. So, you could argue he should be on the floor. Anthony Black played 5 minutes, didn't even shoot the ball. Jalen Suggs played 2 minutes, didn't shoot the ball. So it's about having the right personnel on the floor. And I think Markelle is the engine and the spearhead to our offense, who can actually penetrate and get us the right shots and get us clicking. Sorry for the long answer.
Can I spin this back the other way then? because
Go on,
I'm
go,
not
mate.
disagreeing or agreeing with you either way. I'm just throwing it back. Last night against the Hawks, the Magic's offense was not good down the stretch. Markel was a part of that. So if you're saying that he orchestrates the offense, I'm not disagreeing with you either. It didn't look
So,
any better with him on the floor last night than it has done, say, against
well,
Dallas.
the difference with last night is the reason we lost last night is because of 10 missed free throws. Now,
That's
if you
part
look
of
at
it,
the
yeah.
stat, if you look at the box score, Markel went 3 for 3, didn't miss. Between the rest of the team, they missed 10 free throws. Markel had 1 turnover. The rest of the team had 18 turnovers. He's the primary ball handler, so that shows he's looking after the ball. Everybody else was being sloppy, and I think Markel's turnover was in the first couple of minutes. So obviously, he
Yeah, it was.
locked in. So 18 turnovers, it's not good enough. So for me, like I just said before, having your floor general out there, the person who should have the ball in his hands because he's the primary ball handler, that's why I think we would have beaten Dallas and we would have won last night if we'd made a few more free throws. So, yeah, that's what I think, mate.
Go on, mate. Now, this is, as you know, it's a bit of a two-part of this, mate, because I've already asked you the first part. But some of the criticisms that we see of Markel are a perceived lack of three-point threat, injury prone, so a lack of availability, and that him requiring the ball in his hands stifles the game of Paolo and Franz in particular. So, the floor is yours, mate. Can you persuade those with doubts as to why he holds the position long term for the Magic?
Well, it doesn't fix the spacing issue. I get that. We'd hoped I can't sugarcoat that. I was hoping his percentages would have come up. He hasn't made a 3-ball this season yet. Mind you, he's only played 5 games. But this season, you saw him yesterday driving to the basket, just getting into the heart of the defense. We didn't have that the last 2 games with not having, him on the floor. Cole can do it, but I don't think he can do it to the same extent that Markel does and get to the cup. Black, I don't think is confident enough. He's obviously a rookie, so he's only played X amount of games. Hopefully that'll come. But this season, it's a small sample size at the moment. He's played 5 games, so compare that to last season. So his turnovers are down to 1.2 per game, whereas last year it was 2.3. So turnovers are better. Steals, in and around what they were last year, 1.2. It's shooting. It's a little bit down on last year, but again, it's a very small sample size. He's playing at the same amount of minutes, but his points have dropped off by about 3 points compared to last year. So he's a kind of player that gives you extra possessions, crashes the boards. It's a situational thing. Is that if you do need the space in, you put Cole in. You do. But you need then for Paolo and Franz to be able to orchestrate the offense better. And I haven't seen that this season. I know we're going to probably talk about Paolo and Franz in a little bit now, but the one other player I'm most confident about having the ball and being able to get into the lane is Franz. I don't think I've seen enough of Paolo doing it, to be perfectly honest with you. He's been double team, triple team, and he's given the ball up. So I think he's a key part of the team, but obviously, we're not going to have Damian Lillard on our team, are we? So,
Right.
What's the other option?
Gary, I'm going to come to you because I'm going to ask you about the other half of this equation, that our other starting point guard in Anthony Black. How well do you feel he did coming in and starting for those games that he did start to?
I'll just jump on the back of G there as well and
please do, mate.
With the there's a lot of salient points, but I would also say in that Dallas game you had to have Cole Anthony in.
I agree.
He was the guy who stepped up in that quarter to give us any semblance of hope in the fourth quarter. So it's finding out, I think, about what the best guard combination is going to be going forward. I'm going to start off with a point as well that I think I'm probably going to make later on. That, by the way, I'm not on panic stations at all.
Absolutely,
So
I agree.
I'm not on any trade anyone type thing or anything like that. But this is really, 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 really early stages still of where we are, who we are, and who we're going to be. And also, there are players on this team who we like, and I'm not talking just about us four. I'm talking about Magic fan base, talking about the group chat, the Discord chat, Twitter, people we know, etc., who aren't going to be here when this team is in its final form. Some of these players aren't going to be here, and I'm okay with that. You know, I've made my peace with that because I know I could end up being one of the people who's quite disappointed one day when there's a trade made, but I might not be. With Anthony Black, what he's done is he started that first game. First of all, if you just did the eyesight test, I thought he was mature against the Lakers. It's the Lakers he's playing against, and he's a kid. When you look at him facially, he is a kid, and you could have been really overwhelmed playing against the LA Lakers led by LeBron James, and he wasn't. He had energy. He was a competitor. I feel he's been better starting than he has been coming off the bench, and we know that there are players who are better off the bench. And we know there are players who are better starting, and I think he starts in a rhythm better than he does trying to find the rhythm right now. So that's something to keep in mind. Me and Mikey had a chat the other day. We're up early, we're on the road to work, etc. We sometimes have these early chin wags about basketball. And one of the things was about who he was matched against, which is D'Angelo Russell. And without sitting and doing like a Bleacher Report ranking of every starting point guard in the NBA, I don't think it would be unfair to say that D'Angelo Russell, if we ranked 1 to 30, would rank somewhere between 12 and 17 at a guess. And I would say that because you've got a guy putting up 18 points a game. He's playing in the big market. He's a former All-Star who's put up 20 points a game when he's been a primary option. And Black tortured him. He gave him an awful night. And if you were looking at NBA level competition for someone coming out of college, D'Angelo Russell's a measuring stick, and it's a one that he overcame. And he came through that test with shining colours. He made Russell look poor. Russell can beat you. He can be a difference maker on the court, and he made him look poor. So I think all credit to Anthony Black. Can the shot continue? Because that was our big issue when we got him, and it's what we saw. That's up for debate. That is up for debate, but it's so far so good. I think what Anthony Black's done is he's created a conversation, and it's to Anthony Black's credit because anybody who walks through that door on day one of practice should be looking at, I'm here for the long term. I'm a starter in the NBA. All of these guys who are on that team have been the best player in their district, in their age group at some point. And he's turned up and he's now created a conversation. And that's nothing against Markelle Fultz, Jalen Suggs. But what he has done is, I think Cole offers something different to those guys, where he can play, he can start, or he can be a sixth man and he's a scorer. If we're going to go Franz and if we're going to go Banchero as primary ball handlers, Cole has a role in that team. Because he can be like the Bulls when they had Steve Kerr as a specialist, for example, and they had Harper as a specialist doing a job for them. The comparison for Anthony Black, I think, is Jalen Suggs. Because both of them are defensive first players. So what he's done is I think he's raised a question mark as if Anthony Black evolves as a kid, if he's starting quality down the line, who becomes expendable and has to find their role on the team. So Anthony Black might have guaranteed himself 2 to 3 years on the Magic minimum.
You also look at the other team that he started against, being Dallas Mavericks. The guys he was going up against there, you're going up against two of the best in the league.
But he held his own as a starter. And now in the Hawks game, he's going against another supreme backcourt. And he didn't have the same, but he didn't start. Now, is it altitude? Is it travel? Is it just a kid finding too many hard minutes quick? Who knows? But it's an interesting point. But I will end it by saying I am 100% not on a trade Markelle Fultz, burn Markelle Fultz, or anything.
And I think I think it's important that even though I'm asking the questions here, this is generated in some ways from what we've been seeing all week.
Yep.
I'm with you entirely, Gary, that it's far too early to panic. This is all about a team evolving, and we are still in that process of finding who we have and what we have, and we're 4-4.
But Paul, what a lovely surprise we've now got, because the NBA's released their top 10 rookie rankings. And I'll be honest, I didn't expect either of our rookies to be anywhere near it. Now, he's not in it yet. But if that comes up, we've shown now that we possibly have another top 10 rookie in a draft class again. So full credit to the front office that people are talking about him, because we weren't talking about him at the start of the season.
Yeah, it's a great point, mate. Great point. Mikey, I'm going to come to you, because in a similar vein to some of the criticism we see of Markel over a lack of shooting and availability, some of that is also thrown at Wendell, alongside some of the questions about his rebounding ability. So, but again, no slight on Wendell here, because it's a question that's been asked. Should the Magic seek to strengthen the forward position the centre position going forward?
I think they should seek to improve every area. If I'm honest,
what an answer!
Right, and I'll tell you the reason why. So we're 1-2 this week. Can you remember a couple of years ago? I think Jeff Turner or maybe David Still used to say this, that Aaron Gordon used to be the barometer. That if Aaron Gordon was having a good night, the Magic had a good night.
Yep.
And when he didn't play well or he didn't turn up, the Magic just looked really, really poor. Well, this week we've had, in the 2 games that we've lost against Dallas and Atlanta, Banchero's averaged, he had 5 turnovers last night against Atlanta, and he had 6 against Dallas. Franz only scored 12 against Dallas, and he only scored 12 last night. We love Wendell, we love Markel, we love all these players that are fitting in around them. But at the end of the day, this season, the Magic are only going to play as well as Franz and Paolo play. And if they're not playing as well as they have, as we've seen, like you think the Lakers game, Paolo had a big night, the Magic ended up winning that game. I think those two have got to look like really, really good players, all-star players for us to... And we've had a chance to win all 3 games, don't get me wrong. But for me, I think going forwards, there's question marks about all these players, and rightfully so. Like Gary's alluded to earlier, that we all... I don't think there's a player on the Magic roster that we don't like. We want them all to move forwards and be part of a playoff team or hopefully be a contending team. But
it's a genuine likable roster.
It really is. It really is. And realistically, a large part of this group probably aren't going to be part of that going forwards. But for me, for Wendell's... for his impact or lack of impact since he's been injured. So I went through I can't even say it, through a few numbers. That's what happens at getting up at 4:45, 4:45. This season, the Magic are 17th in defensive rebounds, so they're averaging 33.3. Last season, it was 33.1. So 8 game sample size, and last season, it's almost identical. According to StatMuse, all time, the Magic are averaging 34.4 defensive boards with Wendell on the floor and 34 without him. So the numbers are the same last year as they are this year. So if people are going, oh, well, Wendell needs to improve his defensive rebounding, when Wendell's on the floor, the numbers have been the same this year and last year. So that consistency is still there. Probably the best example of him missing, we've averaged 34.6 defensive rebounds with him on the floor this season. And since he's been injured, it's 31. So there's a drop in defensive rebound with Wendell out there. And the other one, the Magic are 7th in opponents' points in the paint. The first 5 games, we were allowing 46 on average. And the last 3 games, that's gone up to 49. So... It's only a few points here and there, but that's been the difference between like losing to the Hawks last night and a few other games where it's come down, like the Jazz went right down to the wire, and Wendell got the big defensive rebound that helped win that game as well. So for me, Wendell's biggest 2 strengths are his rebounding and defending players in the paint. I think that's, and for a guy that's 6'10", 6'11", who's a bit undersized at the 5, I think he plays bigger than he is. Now, some of these numbers are a bit of a small sample size because obviously we've had games where JI's missed 2 games, Fultz has missed a few games, Gary Harris has also missed the last 3. Fultz missing games is obviously going to have an impact defensively and on the rebounding side of it as well. But I think that just highlights Wendell's presence in the paint. The Magic are a better team with Wendell on the floor. The Magic are better with Fultz on the floor. The Magic are better when Paolo and Franz are both going off and they're averaging 18, 20 points a game, which is what we saw from them last year. So Wendell's a really good rebounder. He's really good at defending the paint. I don't think the Magic should necessarily set themselves and go, right, Wendell's the centre of the future, because if there's an opportunity to improve a position, the Magic have to build around that between Paolo and Franz. They are the 2 key pieces for me. Go on.
I also think one of the things that Wendell probably doesn't get credit for is whether or not he actually takes the rebound down. His presence allows others an opportunity because he is a physical player. He is a physical
people
player.
out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, mate, on the point of centre, we saw JI get minutes in the 4th quarter against Atlanta last night, finishing the game off as our centre. You've long been an advocate of giving JI a bit of a time in that position. So, 2-parter, how did you feel that JI did in the limited time in that role?
Well, I've been beating the drum for a while, haven't I? Just the last couple of years, it's not mattered because he's been injured. But
I started watching the game this morning and thought, well, there's my question for Mikey. As soon as he went, knew where we were going with that one.
I think in certain situations, I don't think it's necessarily a full-time thing that you look at. I think in certain situations and certain matchups, I think JI at 5 makes a lot of sense. I mean, he's an effective shot blocker. He's a deterrent at the rim. He can switch out 1 through 5. Trey had him on skates a couple of times last night when he was switching out onto him, but Trey does that to a lot of players anyway. I think against bigger, stronger bigs, I think Wendell makes more sense because of his physicality, but I think there's certainly some... I mean, Clint Capella comes off the floor. You want somebody that can switch out to somebody that can spread the floor a little bit more. I mean, you think further down the line, like when we end up facing Wembyama, like there isn't a better player on the Magic to defend somebody like Wembyama with his size and his ability to spread the floor. I mean, personally, I thought it was great that we actually got the chance to see it last night. I was a bit disappointed because the Magic actually put him on LeBron when we lost to the Lakers in LA. I think in the 4th quarter they put JI on LeBron. And I was thinking, I love this because they were coming off a back-to-back game. They went to overtime and lost to the Kings. What's the last thing a 38-year-old LeBron wants to face is the Defensive Player of the Year candidate in JI, who can defend all 5 positions. I just want to see more of it. I think this year, we're figuring out who we're moving forwards with. There's some experimenting still to go on. I would actually really love to see what it would look like with Wendell at the 5 and JI at the 4 through stretches when Wendell comes back. I think that would be really interesting defensively. I think that would put our defensive rating even higher because you stick Paolo and Franz next to those 2. That's a lot of size to try and score against. So, I think in limited minutes last night, it was great. I'm sure we'll see more of it in the coming weeks because Wendell's going to be missing some more time. But I don't think that takes anything away from Goga because I think he started really well. And Mo's been great off the bench.
He's really took the opportunity in the role.
Yeah.
He really has come in and played some strong games for me.
Yeah. But JI gives you something that those 2 don't. And I think in certain matchups, it's something the Magic have to explore.
Right, Jay, I'm going to come to you for the second part of this question about JI. The Magic are clearly being cautious in how they are handling JI's return. So because of what he brings to the team when he plays. Is this an approach you're happy to see?
I think you've got to be careful, haven't you? I was lucky to be there when he first came back last season now, but he only played those 11 games, obviously sustaining another injury. So you have to be careful. He's played 6 games this season now, but when Dante, obviously he was on the call yesterday in place of David Steele, and he did a fantastic job. So kudos to Dante there. But he made a point to say that he heard George Galante shout out that, JI was at his minute limit. He did play a few more, and he played down the stretch, obviously, as you guys have just touched upon. I wanted to see more of him. He was, he was good. He was dominating. His just defensive presence, as Mikey just mentioned, it's something that we've, really lacked, having that kind of guy, just to be able to put on anybody. But you have to be careful, don't you? I mean, you wanted him down the stretch last night because there's a chance of a W, but you're not going to, waste some minutes in garbage time or anything like that. Obviously, as he builds up his strength and conditioning to get back, I can't wait till he can play, 24 minutes a game rather than the, 9, 10, 11 he has been playing this season. So I get it. Would I like to see it increased? Absolutely. It's just so great to see Jonathan back on the floor this season, and long may it continue. And just mentioned about starting playing him at the 5. Mikey's been banging on about that since ever, and it was the right thing to do by Coach Mose at the end. I thought Goga's obviously been playing well, but Isaac's a different beast. What do you think, Paul?
Mate, I've got to be honest, I'm happy to see us take a sensible approach with him. Yes, I want to see more minutes, but you look at the defensive presence that he brings to our team, and at this moment in time, within that second unit, we don't really see a dip from the starters to that second unit. And a part of that, in no small degree, is down to Jonathan Isaac's presence on the court. Long may it continue. Yeah. And I think, yes, we've seen one or two people criticising that he was out for a couple of games. If you've got a niggle, well, what's the problem? Any other player, and it wouldn't have been mentioned, it'd just been, shame. But because it's JI, it gets this overblown attention to it that disguises from what he is actually doing for us on the court. And I think I don't think it's going to be too much longer before we start seeing minutes ramping up to the next level. I don't think we're going to see him yet having starter-like minutes, but I think you're going to start seeing it coming up to the 14, 15-minute mark relatively soon. And if that happens, God help teams that are going against him.
Absolutely, mate. But I'm as I was doing my deep dive on faults and how he's a winning player. JI is exactly the same. Since he's been on the Magic, when he hasn't played, we're 106 wins, 222 defeats. But when he has played, we're 75 and 78.
Gary, you've been quiet for a little while here, but we're now going to get on to Paolo in year 2. We spoke in part about it last week, that some Magic fans had concerns at Paolo's start to the season. So 8 games in, I want to ask you how you think his second season is going so far and how you think it'll turn out.
I thought you'd put me on a minutes restriction for a second.
Now, mate, you are the Cole Anthony of this unit. I'm bringing you on when we need some impact.
When you need some impact, right? Okay, I'll no pressure. I expect Paolo to do 20 points per game, maybe just over, 7 rebounds, roughly 7 assists, probably a slight improvement on his rookie numbers. It's probably not what people are hoping for, because I think people are going to be looking for that leap that you see from the likes of, I know you've shown me some stats, Paul, of like LeBron and Durant, where you get a 4 or 5 point leap. The reason why I say that is because as it stands right now, we don't have the floor spacing to get the best out of Paolo Banchero. I think that is a massive problem. And now I'm not saying Paolo's playing brilliantly, because I think until the team gets the turnovers under control, which Paolo is a part of, we are going to lose games like we have done in this week. You know, like we have to stop turning the ball over. That is the big thing for us. Stop the turnovers, but also improve our shooting. Teams have found this zone, and the zone is there to contain Paolo Banchero. We've seen double and triple teams, and that is there on Paolo Banchero. So everything really is to contain him when teams play against the Magic, which is a tip of the hat, really. Is it a problem if Paolo sticks around similar stats? Not really, because of the context of where it's at. It's not that his talents took a nosedive. I do think it would be a disappointment if that continued, that we were wasting talent. So if the team didn't address it and try to put players around and make, accentuate the positives of Paolo, then that would be a thing. But I would also say that when LeBron came into the league with a hype train behind him, which we're seeing really with Wembanyama now. Wembanyama's getting love that Paolo never got as a rookie, despite the fact he posted generational numbers. Kevin Durant, when he was in Seattle at the start, didn't have the hype and the love thrown on him that LeBron did. He got attention as being a scorer and putting up 20 points per game. But as he was known at one point, the Durantula, which he used to get known when he was a younger player, he was talked about as a pure scorer. He was getting Tracy McGrady style love, smooth player, could score in isolation, long, and then there was question marks about his efficiency on a poor Seattle, not a great Seattle team when he was drafted. And I think that's a fair comparison for where Paolo ended his rookie season at, where he didn't get the same spotlight as a higher profile rookie like Wembanyama is now getting. He can score. He's getting his reputation as a scorer. He's got comparisons to another great scorer in Carmelo Anthony, who is known as a pure scorer. And there's question marks on efficiency in a team that hasn't got the unit around him that Durant would get with Oklahoma, where he really made his name, when he had that core around him. So I think it's our job to make sure down the line that Paolo Banchero gets the chance to be what Paolo Banchero can be in Orlando. And right now, I think if you looked at his floor of where Paolo's talent is, just as he is, if he stays as he is roughly, he's Julius Randle as a floor, as an absolute where he is now.
Okay,
and we're then critiquing a player who's a reserve all-star and the main man on the Knicks. So that's how good Paolo is, because he's a kid still, really. I think his ceiling of Paolo, you can see the similarities in movement with LeBron. I don't think he's the athlete that LeBron is or was when he was on like the Heat and things like that. I think Carmelo Anthony's probably a nearer comparison of where Paolo, where he can lead an effective team, he can score. And let's be honest again, Carmelo Anthony flew under the radar. He had a rookie season every bit as good as LeBron.
Well, he was rookie of the year, wasn't he?
Well, but no one talked about how good he was, because the spotlight went on LeBron because of what LeBron had a great rookie season, and he came in with the Wembanyama hype. And when you look at that draft class, him and Wade get the love. Carmelo Anthony was elite in that.
I am right, aren't I? He did win Rookie of the Year.
LeBron won Rookie of the Year, I think, but I think Carmelo put up the numbers which would have generated a Rookie of the Year.
There was something I was watching on YouTube a few weeks back, or maybe it was LeBron. No, I know what it was. LeBron was at Carmelo's first playoff game when he was with the Nuggets, and he was supporting him through that. It was something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
but he had an elite rookie year. Yeah,
he had an elite rookie year, but it was just forgotten because the hype. Let's be honest, LeBron's top 5, top 3, top 2, top 1 all time, depending who you ask. But I think Carmelo Anthony's probably a nearer comparison of what we maybe can expect in terms of where Paolo's stock will be, and that is good. That is really good. So I'm all in on Paolo. I've got no concerns. I just don't want Paolo to be a victim of the team not being put around him eventually, and the same with France to succeed.
So LeBron received 78 first place votes out of a possible 118 that season. Carmelo Anthony came second overall. I don't have his first place votes, and then Wade came third.
Third, yeah. Just done the same thing, G. Just gone,
I
done a
knew it.
little.
But statistically, what impact did he have on that Denver Nuggets team?
Yeah.
Because they were rubbish.
Oh, it was massive impact. Yeah.
They were
But
rubbish.
because he was Denver, it's a small market, and
Yeah.
he didn't get the hype like you guys have just mentioned.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting, but then it goes back to the point I'm going to make again is that the team is in its really early stages of trying to find out who we are, what we are, and where we are, and some of the players will not make it through to the end of the rebuild.
I don't think it hurts making that point again and again, Gary, simply because people are kind of believing that, because we've all got a strong belief that we can do something more this year and that we can reach the playoffs in some shape or form. It doesn't mean that we believe this team is complete. We are still, as you have said, in a rebuild and a development phase of that rebuild.
And Paul, also, I think you're bang on. But I also think it goes back to the point of people like the players on this team. I think Mikey said it. Yeah. We like the players, and there's people who are Magic fans who've gone into bat over and over again for your likes of Markel, for your likes of Cole, for your likes of Jalen Suggs, and that's why it's heated, because people have attachments to the players. I'm not slighting players like Vucevic here, but people are a lot more attached to this Orlando Magic team than the one that made the playoffs last.
Yeah,
a lot.
I think that's a fair point. But what also a second part of this is, I want to ask you if ultimately some of Paolo's figures do take a dip this year. Is that a problem?
If we make the playoffs and Paolo averages 19 points a game, are we complaining? I'm not personally. And then there is a thing in American sports, and I'm sure, I know we've got American listeners, called the sophomore slump.
Yeah.
If you want an example of a player who had a sophomore slump last year, who's doing really well this year, Scotty Barnes.
And when you look at Scotty Barnes' figures from last season, they're not that bad. They're not that much down.
But he was again in an elite rookie class.
Yep.
And look, I think Paolo's better than Scotty Barnes. I'm just going to throw that out there. But I'm not saying that Scotty Barnes is a bad player, because if it was in a weak draft, you'd be saying he's undoubtedly a top 3 player out of that draft. He just happens to be in a draft where you've got Mobley, you've got Cunningham, you've got Franz, you've got Jalen Green, you've got Şengün. It's deep. So him being the rookie of the year in that draft class puts a bullseye on him.
But what you've also got to consider is every team is scouting the Magic, and they're trying to stop Paolo, get the ball out of his hands. They're going to put pressure on him. They're going to try and force him to make mistakes, to do turnovers, take bad shots. So you've got the added pressure of that with Paolo this season.
That conversation was there last season, wasn't it? When we were talking about the Rookie of the Year conversation, that no other player in his rookie class was facing the same pressure and being the face of that franchise. Every other one who was, whether you're talking about somebody in Oklahoma or whether you're talking on Indiana or wherever else, they had star players at the side of them. They had somebody who is the face of the franchise. Paolo is the only one who doesn't. And I think that's still, as you've just said there, the case.
Can I mention a player as well who we're not talking about here that's really important?
Go for it.
I'm not saying that I'm saying this guy should be in the starting 5, but with these zone defenses that have been thrown at us, we really could have done with Gary Harris as an option. Because I think, we're talking about the importance of, say, like Markel being there, or Jonathan Isaac being there, for example. If if Gary Harris had been on that floor, and then you're saying you've got your Markel Fultz point guard, or you've got your Cole Anthony, you've got someone to throw that ball out that zone, for someone to aim at and say break the zone. You've got your 3-point shooter, and I think as well that takes your pressure off Franz, because Franz is your clutch player in the fourth. So teams are going to look there. I think Franz would get more space if Gary Harris was available to draw on. I was hoping that, and I think he's done really well this season, but I was hoping that Jalen Suggs would have been shooting better than he is.
But Joe Ingles is another one in that same context, because he can shoot the three. And I don't know if you heard on the broadcast against the Mavericks, I want to say, he was calling out the Mavericks plays. I can't remember the name of the play, but David Steele and Jeff Turner picked up on it and said, look, he's telling Coach Mosley what they're doing. And then we adjusted. I think it was the end of the second quarter at the time, and Caleb Houston made a defensive play on it. So Joe Ingles and his veteran leadership, knowing, seeing, a Western Conference opposition that he's come to know and play, 4 times a season, going years by, having him on the floor could really have, helped us. So I know he's not been putting up the numbers we'd had hoped. But he can hit that 3. He can stroke it.
But do you know what with Joe Ingles, though? He's doing things that people aren't even really noticing.
Yep. No, I know. Yeah.
He was plus 27 last night against Atlanta, and he went 1 from 6 from the field. There was some of the passes. There was one he threw out to the corner to Franz, I think, in the 3rd or the 4th quarter, and you're thinking there aren't many players that can see what he can see. I think it was Adam Papagiorgio. I can't even say it. Sorry, Adam. Sorry, Adam, for butchering your name. He made the great point on X, Twitter. We're calling it Twitter. The other day about how the casuals don't realise what Joe Ingles is doing, some of the passes that he's making, and I think Joe Ingles is playing really well. I think if he could just give us a couple of threes, 2 or 3 threes a game, I think people will look at him completely different. But you get people just look at the box score and go, well, he only scored 3 points last night and went 1 from 6 on the field. Joe Ingles is ineffective out there. He's plus 27 and he's only scored 3 points. So that's tough to do.
Can I also throw in the fact that thank God he made that 3 ball after Jalen Suggs nutmegged D'Angelo Russell against the Lakers, because
that was fantastic.
That highlight was absolutely brilliant. If he'd not made the 3, it wouldn't have been as good. So shout out Joe Ingles.
Also, though, I've just got to go back to Gary Harris. When Caleb Houston got those minutes, where would they have gone?
Oh yeah, I think Gary Harris is genuinely a huge miss for this team.
He is
a huge miss.
It's again somebody who offers something a little bit different in the 2-guard position than what we currently have. Like if Jalen can start hitting the shots, the threes, there's no debate on that. But we need the consistency out of him on the offensive end.
Yeah.
But I think if we'd had that Gary Harris, Joe Ingles combo to throw in there, we could have changed things a little bit in the games where we've needed to break the zone.
I mean, when we're talking this next section, we could easily throw in talking about the 3-point shooting percentage, but I think that's something that we've all known has been somewhat of an issue, that we didn't necessarily address that fully in the off season. So I want to talk about a couple of bits that have been areas of concern in some ways. At every game or during the week at some point. So, Mikey, start with the free throw percentage. How are you feeling about this subject?
It's not been good enough, Paul. That's the plain and simple. The Magic are shooting 72.8% in 8 games. If you look at games this season, so like last night against Atlanta, we lost the game by 1. We missed 10 free throws. We beat the Jazz by 2. But we missed 9 free throws, and that game wouldn't have been close down the stretch, and Geraint wouldn't have been having having his heart palpitations at the end of that, watching that.
My little heart.
As Markin had hit 3, and then we come back down the other end. That game would have been over and done with if they had made the free throws. He lost to the Clippers by 16. We missed 14 free throws. That would have been a very different game in the second half had we had knocked our 3 points down. The Lakers game, we lost by 3. We missed 5 free throws. Really, that's been the difference. And you think in that game we were leading by 8-9 points in the fourth quarter down the stretch. So at the end of the day, the Magic are beating themselves. Missing free throws is costing us games. They're leaving easy points on the board. Unsurprisingly, Banchero's gotten to the line the most with 58 attempts. He's only made 38, 65% this season.
That's one of the situations where we've been talking about Paolo and his abilities this year, but that's the one that concerns me. That's took a big dip.
Yeah. So his attempts are there. They're right up there, 7-8 a game like he was last year, but he has to start making them, and we saw this. I think in FIBA, his free throw percentage, his shooting wasn't great. It wasn't great last year. It was in the 70. I think it was 75% without looking. So he's obviously still trying to find a rhythm, but he's got to improve in the free throw line because otherwise teams are going to foul him and think, well, we got a chance that Paolo's going to miss one of two. But there's been some weird things like Cole Anthony, who's a great free throw. Why can't I say free throw shooter?
It runs in, mate. It runs on. That's the problem with it.
He's second in attempts to the Magic this season. He's only 30 for 39. You having games, and was it the Dallas game? And I think he missed a few free throws in that game. And it was one of those things where we were frustrated watching that Dallas game. And players getting to the line when they were getting to the line, and you're still missing easy points. Franz is consistent; he's still at 85%. But again, I said it earlier. Banchero's the barometer for this team. If Banchero's playing well, he's the one that's turning the ball over the most. He's getting to the line the most, but not making his free throws. If Banchero can improve his efficiency, not just in the field, from the free throw line, and stop turning the ball over, I think that alone, the Magic are going to be in a much, much better place. But as a team, the Magic have to get better at free throws.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want this to sound as if it's the question I'm asking here is a negative, because I don't think it is. I think there is also a positive to us highlighting that the free throw percentage isn't good, because we are getting the calls. We are actually getting to that line. There is a positive to this, that we are now seeing the Magic get calls. The officials are giving us, and we could probably have more, in all honesty.
It's just because the margins are so slight. We've lost the game by 1 point.
Yeah. And that's what's highlighting.
Mikey's just mentioned, yeah. So we're in these games. We should be winning these games. We just need to make our foul shots.
Yeah. And as you said earlier, I think 4-4, the 2 games that we've lost by a very, very fine margin. 6-2 looks much different.
Yeah.
6-2 looks much different. So, G, same question to you on the subject of turnovers.
Oh my gosh, turnovers! I was watching. It was probably about 3 hours ago now. I was watching the first half. I messaged Mikey and I said, "Have we got turnoveritis?" Seriously, it was like just throwing the ball away. So I had a little look. Of the 30 teams, we are 26th in the league, looking after the ball, turning the ball over 16.3 times. The worst teams being Utah, Detroit, Phoenix, and the Clippers, then us. But interestingly, in the last 3 games, we've turned it over 18.7 times. Now, I know I said it earlier, but we didn't play with a proper point guard who looks after the ball. And how many times did he turn over the ball yesterday? Once. So I know I'm banging the same drum again now, but we just need to give the point guard the ball. and Banchero needs to stop turning the ball over. Franz Wagner needs to stop turning the balls over. Last year, we only averaged 15.4, which was... where were we in the league there? Just trying to get my stats. Oh, it's not doing it by numerical, so I'll forget about it. But it's a lot less. So turn the ball over less. We're going to be a better basketball team. Simple. It's simple math, isn't it? So there's not much more to say about it. Just look after the ball, and especially look after it in the first and the second periods. Those turnovers in the first and second periods, they lead to fast break points. And it doesn't let our defense have an opportunity to set up and be the ferocious defense that it can be if we're running back after the ball.
One thing I think that got somewhat ignored about last night, particularly, and I think it was also the case with Dallas, but I'd have to look back at what I'd written about for the game preview. But certainly with Atlanta, you had to expect that we were going to be on the back end of a lot of turnovers and on the back end of a lot of steals. Atlanta are a physical team that force those issues. They are, I think they came in leading, if memory serves me right from writing yesterday, in those sorts of categories. They were certainly top 3 of the NBA in those categories. So you can't be surprised that we had those issues last night. And I equally don't think it's surprising that a certain number of those came from more inexperienced players.
Yeah, I mean, last year, just don't know, I think we were 24th in the league. So being 26th in the league, it's a problem that we've got, and it's something we need to address this season. So hopefully,
unfortunately, it's just a pain of being a young team.
It is.
It's just one of those things you've got to go through and learn from it. But like I said, 19 turnovers, that's 19 possessions that we've either not got to the line or we've not got some extra points on the board. Again, not just free throw percentage. They're the key 2 things, aren't they? More than anything else we're talking about. Free throws have to improve, so do turnovers. If you do that, we're probably 7-1 and we're 6-2.
Yeah. Gary, final point to you on the number of times that this team is committing personal fouls and allowing other teams to the line. What's your thoughts on the situation so far?
Trae Young killed us, didn't he, on the line? It's costly. It's not my major concern right now.
I agree.
Because I feel like I'm just jumping on Mikey here, but we're a young team. I think we're very enthusiastic. I think the players are aware that expectation is on them this season to achieve. And I think you can look at players like Jalen Suggs, who had 5 fouls last night, and they look as though they've had like a week's worth of caffeine pumped into them like 10 minutes before the game starts, because they are really hyped up, and perhaps they're just over trying a little bit. And then I think you throw into the mix that what we would have expected in terms of defenders, for example, Wendell being in the paint, isn't there. So I think we're trying to compensate. I think teams have got new ways to get at us that they hadn't perhaps had in their plan 5 games ago. And I think we're still figuring things out. And I think the bigger question for me is, okay, I don't want to see us send somebody to the line and have death by free throws, but I think we've got to sort out turnovers, and I think we've got to sort out the zone, and we'll still win games. I didn't like seeing Trae Young at the line as much as he was, but I can live with it. What I really want to show is that we've got an answer to this zone defence, and we've got an answer to the turnovers, and I think if we sort those 2 problems out, we're going to win a lot more games. Right now, we're on a 500 record, and when we did our season predictions, that was roughly where we were all sitting at.
Absolutely. Yep.
I think that's a nice little point to end my spiel.
I think
so. Go on, Mikey. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it sounds like we've just had 5 minutes of just moaning, but we're not. It's just points to highlight that these are areas the Magic have to improve on. That's it. But at the end of the day,
this is what I was saying, isn't it? That I don't want it to be appearing as a negative.
No, it's not.
What the 3 things that we're talking about there are all fine margins. that make a difference between taking a loss and getting a W. You also, I think the other thing you have to factor in the personal fouls, in the turnovers. You look at the teams that we've played against this week. You've played against the Lakers, you've played against the Dallas Mavericks, and you've played against the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young is second in the league in free throw attempts. Gets fouled a lot. It's always been part of his game. Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, get fouled, get to the free throw line. Luka more so than Kyrie. LeBron, Anthony Davis, Austin Reeves for the Lakers. These are players who get fouled, get to the line, and take shots. We have played 3 teams that have highlighted potentially our weaknesses this week. And I don't think that's necessarily negative, because we've beaten one of them. We've lost by a fine margin to another one, and to Dallas. It just got away from us in the second half. We just had a poorer performance in part.
Yeah, we run them close, and we expected to win.
Yeah.
Half time of the Dallas game, you're thinking, yeah, W here. Yesterday, the Hawk game, I thought we'd win that. Up 8 or 10 in the fourth quarter, should win.
So this isn't
a
a
learning
negative.
curve.
It's not a negative.
It's a learning curve.
Right. Go on, Mikey.
I was just going to say, if you had given us 4-4 at this point at the beginning of the season, we would have all taken it, given the schedule and given all these Western teams we've played, and then coming home for a game and going back to Mexico City. It's been a tough start for the Magic have not had an easy start with the schedule. So to be 4-4, we're happy.
and it's just the frustration of it could be better.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. Before we record again, we play 4 more games. So this has been recorded Friday the 10th. We're going again next Saturday, I think it is. So between that time, we play 4 games, as I say, all Eastern Conference opposition, including our first 2 experiences of the in-season tournament action. So tomorrow night, Saturday the 11th of November, 11 p.m. tip at home against the Milwaukee Bucks. Potentially our first look at Dame as a Milwaukee player, although he was out last night. He was out injured last night. He's day to day.
Was he?
Oh, fingers crossed.
He'll be
you
back
never know your
then.
luck. You never know your luck.
Hopefully Giannis gets chucked out for taunting again. You see that? That was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And then Wednesday the 15th at 12:30 a.m. So
Tuesday.
Stateside, it's Tuesday.
Night.
Yep. We are playing our first in-season tournament game at the Brooklyn Nets, and that is also the first night of a back-to-back. Following night, second night of the back-to-back is 1 a.m. tip on Thursday morning, Wednesday if you're in the States, where we play the Chicago Bulls on the road. And then 1 a.m. Saturday morning, so Friday night game over stateside, is our second in-season tournament game. Second night facing Vooch and DeRozan and Zach LaVine as we go against the Chicago Bulls again. So, boys, how do you think this week is going to shake out? Gary, we'll go with you first, mate.
2-2. If it stands as it is and Dame plays, I expect us to lose to the Bucks, and I think we will lose on the back-to-back in Chicago, and I expect us to beat the Nets, and I expect us to win the second game against the Bulls.
So you're having both wins coming in the in-season tournament?
Yep.
Nice.
Glory of the cup.
You're fancying a run to Wembley? Oh, sorry, to Vegas.
Yes, Sirrah.
So speaking of Vegas, as we've had one of our members recently there, Mikey, what's your predictions for the week, mate? Where are you standing on this one?
I'm taking a gamble. I'm going 3-1.
Ooh, go on then.
We're going to beat the Bucks.
Yep. Ooh.
We've been good at home.
I like it.
We've been good at home. I'm going to say we beat the Bucks. We're going to beat the Nets, and we'll split the pair with the Chicago Bulls.
Are you saying which one we're winning?
let's win the tournament one. So we'll win the second one.
G, it's all down to you, mate, for the 4-0 for the week.
Heart says one thing, head says the other, and both the boys have taken it. So it's either 2-2 or 3-1.
Or 4-0.
I can't see us beating the Bucks. Milwaukee is such a good team, and Giannis and Dame.
Detroit pushed them the other evening, though.
They certainly did.
They did, didn't they? No, I'll go 3-1. I'm still optimistic, still good and optimistic. But we need to win at least 2 of these. These are teams that are going to be in and around us. Well, the Bulls anyway. I don't think much of the Nets. So we better beat the Nets. Just we can stick it on good old Elliott. So I'll say lose to the Bucks, beat the Nets. I'll say, and then we're going to beat the Bulls twice. Yeah, 3-1. Let's do it.
3-1.
Paul?
Gary has given my answer, mate. 2-2. Both games we win are the in-season tournament ones. I don't like us against the Bucks, regardless of whether Dame plays or not. They have a seriously good record against us over the recent years. And second night of a back-to-back, somehow we just don't seem to do well. I think it was 1-7 last year. I think we only won one of the back-to-back games, and the second
could be this one.
And so that's where I am. 2-2. 2-2. So, everybody, I think that'll do for this week. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and watch. If you like the episode, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us your comments and questions. We will always respond. If you listen to the episode, leave us a review, share with other Magic fans. It genuinely helps us grow the show. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X, all at... I'll start that bit again. All at _. I'll get this. Why did you have to have an underscore? It throws me. Anything technical throws me like this. So, don't cut this. It's running. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X. All at _ Let's Talk Magic. I got there eventually. So, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. From Gary, Geraint, Mikey, and myself, until next time, go Magic.